seeking truth and inspiration, reaching for the skies. With hearts and minds united, we'll dig deep, uncovering the secrets that the darkness tries to keep. Truth seekers on a journey, we won't be swayed. Breaking through corruption, finding our own way. Bringing strangers together, like family we'll stand. In these challenging times, we'll lend a helping hand. Through the whispers and the lies, we search the night. Guided by a beacon, shining ever bright. Sometimes truth can hurt, but we'll face the pain. Together we'll come through like sunshine after rain. Truth seekers on a journey, we won't be swayed. Breaking through corruption, finding our own way. Bringing strangers together, like family we'll stand. In these challenging times, we'll lend a helping hand.
Hey. Welcome. It's Tuesday evening. A little bit weird right now because we're in that transition for daylight savings. Used to be in dark usually by now, but we're just getting to dusk real good right now. So some people haven't quite made the adjustment just yet, as many of us are changing with a lot of the times as well. And here we are. It is Tuesday evening, and it was a beautiful day here where we're at, a little bit on the chilly side from time to time, but still a beautiful day, and for the most part, pretty quiet. Don't have a whole lot to report on. I mean, there's people out there grasping at straws, trying to connect dots, stretching it pretty thin. There's a report being passed around about the RV being talked about, and one person being set up and ready to go with the RV. Don't know, don't have any validity to it as far as I'm concerned. That's my opinion. There's no specifics. Not to mention the NDA would come into play as well, and it is what it is, right? People are going to say what they got to say to try to remain relative at this time, considering. Okay, the big talk is that Trump is, if we give Trump a chance, he's going to fix everything, right? Well, we all know that's not true either. But that's okay. I think we're learning and growing as individuals, and we're kind of turning loose to the matrix a lot at a greater pace, and that's a good thing. With that being said, I want to say hello to the sheepdogs. How y'all doing tonight?
Doing good, Mike. It was beautiful here in Texas. The weather's been really nice. Hopefully it stays that way. But no, it will. I'm not going to speak that out. But yeah, it was really, really nice. And I'm glad to be here.
That's cool.
I'm doing pretty good, Mike. Had to shave my dog's legs today because they were hairy.
He did. That was a lot of hair, too.
I don't know if anybody's got a Cocker Spaniel, but those have to be the hardest dogs to cut.
Yeah, we do ours every 6 weeks. Go ahead.
Yeah. I don't know how often I do mine.
We had to get sheep shears, right?
Yeah.
To cut him because his hair's thick but really thin and nothing would work. So we bought some sheep shears and it works.
Right.
It cuts his hairy legs really good. But a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
That's good to hear. You know, don't want to be a Debbie Downer for these damn Bongino fans, but you know, here's another day one that's gone by and not shit is happening. He's out there scratching his ass and picking his nose just like the rest of them.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, they say that once they get in there, they're controlled. They can only go so far and say so much.
Yep. That's what I said, scratching his ass and picking his nose.
Yeah, it don't matter who it is.
Yep.
Yep, we're going to conquer the world until you step into that office. What is it Mike Tyson says? Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the damn face.
True. That's true.
But, you know, Dan Bongino, another wasted time of the people, you know, with high expectations. And it's a big old nothing burger, just like Cash Patel is. They're all playing a part. They're all playing a role, and it's useless. It's the most useless piece of shit. All of them are, you know.
Right. And like the ICE people, they're saying they're getting all these people in Florida. They haven't got nobody in Florida. It's all narrative. They said they can't even if they wanted to, they have no room in their jails. They're filled with us.
Yeah.
So my gosh, yeah, he said it's all talk. There's that guy we were talking about. He does the Uber out there, and he does all the because he's Cuban, and
Right.
he said the most of the police and border patrol are Cubans, so they're not going to be arresting their own people.
No.
Yeah, so he said it's just all talk.
Yep. Yepers. You know, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer or negative Nelly, but folks, y'all, we have to quit expecting these people to get into office and start doing something, because they've proven to us over and over again they're not going to do anything. Yep, just actors acting. That's right, exactly.
It's like waiting on the law enforcement to investigate themselves.
Yeah,
then,
right. Just not going to happen.
You know, it's the people that have to do it. You know, really,
Yep.
We don't. DC is deep. You know, we don't need to worry about the district of criminals. We know what the hell's.
Oh yeah. You need to lead them to their own device and disconnect from it. That's what we need to do.
That's right.
So it is let's see here. I just got a big old article sent to me. Hang on one second. Let me check this out. All right. Yeah, this is from AMG News. I wouldn't put a whole lot of stock into this. Some good information in there, obviously. It talks about maritime law is dead, restoring American sovereignty, Medea Green, she's a satire writer as it is. AMG, America Media Group. So nothing biggie there.
I think cheating put out that his gas prices are going down.
Yeah. There's the bankruptcy papers. Okay. We've showed these before. This is official form 205 right here. It's got the United States on there, United States Bankruptcy Court, Northern District of Florida, Tallahassee Division. The United States Corporation Company. Trump's role was commander in chief of a sovereign America. All that's in the bankruptcy papers. This Jasara crap right here, it's all crap, is exactly what it is. Your money was your prison. Some truth to it, right? I mean, these people write a good article, but it's a lot of it's propaganda. A lot of it is propaganda. Find it interesting that they included the bankruptcy papers, which we hadn't seen those in a while. Nobody's passed them around, but there you are there. These are the legitimate Chapter 11 bankruptcy papers that Trump oversaw. So, yeah. Nothing else new there. Just came out recently. This article did. All right, so breaking right here, federal judge blocked Trump's attempt to terminate government credit cards. So Doge set a spending limit to $1 on the cards. Ha ha ha! Right. This one right here says, "Women don't fart. We release tension."
Oh my gosh.
Some kind of press conference going on. Looks like a stage setting to me. CGI, a lot of it. Yeah, just a bunch of wasted time there as well. Yeah, nothing new really. Mm-mm. Well, Sheepdog, I don't know what you got, buddy, but I don't have a whole lot. Here's the breakdown of the thing that you did a while back.
I have a few things I could play, Mike, that
All right.
that we can comment on. It'll cover. We're going to cover a little bit of Cash Patel, maybe some Dan Bongino, and then this war that nobody voted for. You know, like we said,
Right.
like we said in the past, you put whoever you put between you and God, whoever you pick as king is going to send your kids off to war, and that's what we're seeing. You know, this fake, whether it be real or fake, I don't know, but you got the Navy in the Middle East right now already having issues and stuff with what is it, Houthi? I think they bombed Houthi in the Blowfish.
Oh, yeah.
In the blowfish.
Poor Hootie.
The poor Houthi. He's having a rough time since he transitioned from Houthi into Blowfish.
Yeah, he has. Oh, my.
But, you know, again, it's all narrative, wag the dog, military industrial complex, business as usual, right? Actors playing in the role, actors acting as FBI agents, CIA agents, presidents, senators. How do I know if I'm still in the Matrix? Does your entire government have an IMDb profile, which is your actors have? Every one of them. This is a hard pill to swallow, this one right here, but you know, it only makes sense because, you know, 80 to 90% of Congress, they have an 80 to 90% disapproval rating in Congress, yet 80, 90% of them keep getting reelected, so it doesn't make any sense. So it has to be scripted, and they have to have certain characters.
Right.
Right. CAA. You know, they gave Biden and Harris contracts with the CAA.
Imagine that.
Yeah. I mean, they were pretty good actors the last 4 years.
Right.
Fooled a lot of people. Let me start with this little clip right here. I'm going to play a few minutes. This is a 3-hour video, but it was the opening that was the eye opener. You know, since we're one big, huge monopoly here in America, which is supposed to be illegal, right? But it's not. But when you understand that this is, ever since they took the gold, the board game Monopoly came out just a few months later, right after that, 1937 or something like that, 35. But here's what they were trying to tell us, right?
Wow.
Let's see if it plays.
Deadly riots over the government's plan to avoid defaulting on its loans.
Is that the unemployment keeps rising, and it has to keep rising just because you have an excess supply of goods, which is
this is all borrowed money that our kids debt is owned by banks in other countries.
issuing about $1 trillion
in the form of a convenient filter cigarette that delivers the taste, and I only buy more liquor. Are you
quite some time ago, my son understand that money and possessions, that's the way that you keep score. And by the end of that summer,
I was more ruthless than my grandmother. I was ready to bend the rules if I had to win that game. And I sat down with her to play that fall. I took everything she had. I watched her give her last dollar and quit in utter defeat. And then she had one more thing to teach me. Then she said, now it all goes back in the box. All those houses and hotels, all the railroads and utility companies, all that property and all that wonderful money. Now it all goes back in the box. None of it was really yours. You got all heated up about it for a while. But it was around a long time before you sat down at the board. And it will be here after you're gone. Players come, players go. Houses and cars, titles and clothes, even your body. Because the fact is that everything I clutch and consume and hoard is going to go back in the box, and I'm going to lose it all. You have to ask yourself, when you finally get the ultimate promotion, when you've made the ultimate purchase, when you buy the ultimate home, when you have stored up financial security and climbed the ladder of success to the highest rung you can possibly climb it, and the thrill wears off, and it will wear off, then what? How far do you have to walk down that road before you see where it leads? Surely you understand, it'll never be enough. So you have to ask yourself the question, what matters?
A little something to think about there. It all goes back in the box when you're done. That's the lesson Grandma taught him.
Yep.
You stop holding on to the possessions and realize that this resets. It wasn't real. It was all fake fiat. Monopoly money. Spinning your wheels. Trying to play the game. Right? Because people keep score with bank accounts, right? Digits in the bank account. That's your score on a video game. Or
yep,
game.
Exactly.
Something that caught my ear that nobody's talking about, and I'm going to play a couple of minutes of this. This is President Trump answers questions at the Kennedy Center yesterday. But nobody's talking about it. It's really crazy that they just let it slide by. But here we go.
So thank you very much, Chair. We're here.
All right, let me put the closed caption on.
Here to have our first board meeting, Kennedy Center, and it's in tremendous disrepair, as is a lot of the rest of our country, most of it because of bad management. This is a shame what I've watched and witnessed. They spent a fortune, $250 million, and they built these rooms that nobody's going to use, rooms underground.
Did y'all hear that?
Yep.
They spent millions of dollars building rooms that nobody's going to use under the ground, under this building.
And I've often wondered, what are the big cubes that they have outside that block the view? The cubes with a door in them.
And he says there's cubes outside that that has a door on them that you can access.
So that people can get down to rooms that nobody's going to use.
So they can go underground. So they can access the underground from the outside of the building through a door that's in a cube. And they spent millions of dollars on these rooms that nobody's going to use. but the building's in shambles. So this is in Arlington. So the underground building is nothing, no surprise, right? Nobody's talking about that. I wanted to point that out. First minute in, underground. Let's go back.
Our first board meeting, Kennedy Center, and it's in tremendous.
The time is stamp is 333.
Repair, as is a lot of the rest of our country, most of it because of bad management. This is a shame what I've watched and witnessed. They spent a fortune, $250 million, and they built these rooms that nobody's going to use, rooms underground. And I've often wondered, what are the big cubes that they have outside that block the view? The cubes with a door in them, so that people can get down to rooms that nobody's going to use. And it's a shame. It's a shame. The other thing is, we have a little problem with some people that work here.
All right. So you got that?
Cubes and cubes, huh? Underground. Crazy. And how much money was that?
250 million.
Yeah.
Just to build rooms that nobody's going to use with no windows.
Yeah, that sounds creepy.
Yeah. Where's that video that I was going to play? We're going to go over a little Cash Patel. We're going to balance the show out. We're not going to do just a bunch of movie shit, but we have to show you so that you can understand what's taking place.
Oh, I just wanted to say the JFK files they released today, it's the same thing they released just 2 years ago. That I dug through. It's just pages of CIA documents that basically don't lead to nothing. I mean, there might be, but you have to dig and dig and dig. There's thousands and thousands of pages. So happy hunting if you're trying to find something, because I don't think they're going to tell you, but you can look.
It should piss some people off, hopefully, maybe. Stop the division. All right. I believe the ultimate plan is to bring everybody together. You don't have to agree on everything, but we're going to play a little Cash Patel, talking about how great Pam Bondi is. She's doing an excellent job. Let that load. Here we go. Sorry, guys. I thought I had this already opened. All right. Here we go. This is from the Here's the Deal channel, but he also has this. She has like 2 or 3 different channels. This one covers these topics here. I want to go over a lot of key things that he points out and how they play the game on the people and why the prisons are full and they can't put anybody else in them, especially on a deportation level, because the jail cells are filled with the people, with us, the citizens, American citizens, right?
Right. But they can't deport them either because they can't ask them. They can't profile, right? They can't profile. They can't violate their First, Fourth, and Fifth Amendment. So I guess they're just not doing it. Or they may know better not to.
Well, the thing was they were supposed to deport the criminals, right? Nope.
Right. So how would they know who the criminal was?
Well, they have to.
You know what I'm saying? They'd have to.
When they look in the mirror, yeah, when they look in the mirror, they see. Oh, him. Yeah. You're the motherfucker.
Right.
Look, America, we have DEA evidence and we're fighting fentanyl. Let's be honest with ourselves. From the perspective
So he's
of
going to cover the propaganda with the war on drugs and the propaganda with terrorism so that they can come after us, right? The fentanyl. Remember in the 80s, it was the crack thing, and then and so on, war on drugs. And they, just like Joe Biden's policies, they filled up the prisons with victimless crimes, people that were just addicts that were just harming themselves and nobody else. That's a victimless crime. All they needed was treatment, right? Not putting in a prison cell so they can come out and face the same things, still untreated. So that's what's taking place. That's why the prisons are full. It doesn't matter if you committed the crime or not. But let's
constitutional rights and American freedoms. There are two things that the U.S. government has initiated, implemented, and perpetuated that has not only set fire to the idea of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, it continues to pour gasoline on these so-called unalienable rights. It's the war on drugs and the war on terror. And we should all know by now that both slogans are euphemistic. In reality, both wars, now conducted simultaneously every single day, fleshes out as a perpetual war on the American people. In reality, the war on drugs and the war on terror gives federal agents like the FBI, DEA, CIA, and state and local authorities justification to trample rights in the name of national security and keeping American communities safe. And what's the trade-off? You give away some of your essential liberties and we'll promise you security. And just like the blue shirts of the TSA, it's all just expensive security theater as they perpetuate another avenue to bleed the American tax cattle through rights trampling schemes. And you thought Kash Patel, the new director of the FBI, was going to be different, but he's not, because every time he opens his mouth, he says the same old thing every FBI director says. Let's take a listen.
We have a new FBI, and I'm humbled and honored.
Okay, it looks like it froze up and he got booted. He's got to get back on.
All right.
Oh, can I send it to you, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. Send it to me.
Okay.
Where are you sending it to, Miss Sheepdog?
It's going to come from Sheepdog. Hold on. Okay, I just sent it.
All right. As Sheepdog was saying, Cash ain't got nothing new, no new script. All of them say the same thing. So let's check it out.
And have clicked the link on one of our ads that you've probably.
Look, America, we have DEA evidence and we're fighting fentanyl. Let's be honest with ourselves. From the perspective of constitutional rights and American freedoms, there are two things that the U.S. government has initiated, implemented, and perpetuated that has not only set fire to the idea of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, it continues to pour gasoline on these so-called unalienable rights. It's the war on drugs and the war on terror. And we should all know by now that both slogans are euphemistic. In reality, both wars, now conducted simultaneously every single day, fleshes out as a perpetual war on the American people. In reality, the war on drugs and the war on terror gives federal agents like the FBI, DEA, CIA, and state and local authorities justification to trample rights in the name of national security and keeping American communities safe. And what's the trade-off? You give away some of your essential liberties and we'll promise you security. And just like the blue shirts of the TSA, it's all just expensive security theater as they perpetuate another avenue to bleed the American tax cattle through rights trampling schemes. And you thought Kash Patel, the new director of the FBI, was going to be different, but he's not, because every time he opens his mouth, he says the same old thing every FBI director says. Let's take a listen.
We have a new FBI, and I'm humbled and honored to be its leader. We have a courageous Attorney General in General Pam Bondi. We have incredible leaders throughout our law enforcement community.
That's gun grabber, red flag, gun confiscation law, Pam Bondi.
Be at the FBI, the DEA, HSI, CBP, ATF, and the list goes on. I've been privileged to meet so many of them in my first month on board here. I look around and I see state attorneys generals that have been doing the work hand in glove with local, state, and federal law enforcement. And I told you when I got this job that we would crush violent crime, that we would take the fight to anyone who wishes to do harm to our way of life and to hurt our citizenry, that we would go to the ends of the earth to bring them back to face American justice produced right here in this very hall, in this very building. The FBI stood up an interagency task force at our Manassas office, and in just 2.5 short weeks, we have arrested over 300 violent felonies, gang members, including MS-13 and 18 gangsters. We have taken seizure of hundreds of pounds of narcotics and hundreds of weapons and currency and illicit goods.
How many American rights were trampled in the process of this drug grab in this cartel elimination program? How many American rights? Because we know when they initiated the drug war and the war on terror, even today, you've got the blue shirts of the TSA telling you to take off your belt, take off your shoes, put everything in the bin. It's the radiation and molestation practices of the blue shirts of the TSA. You're losing your rights every single day in American airports. You're losing your rights every single day still under the Patriot Act. You're losing your rights every single day under the drug war. It's not a war on drugs. It's not a war on terror. It's a war on the American people so that they can justify their own existence, the CIA, the DEA, the ATF, for goodness sake. We know at least the ATF should be eliminated. We know the DEA and the FBI and the CIA have ruined American lives. If you question that, just ask the kids at Waco. Oh, that's right. You can't because they're not alive anymore. Just ask Randy Weaver and his wife. Oh, you can't because the ATF and the FBI shot Randy Weaver's wife in the face while she was holding her child.
That's just what you can do when you put the brave men and women of law enforcement in one room and get the hell out of their way. And we are going to do that in every state across this country. In Massachusetts alone, in the last couple of weeks, they have indicted federally over 50 violent gang members and narco traffickers, seizing almost 200 kilograms of fentanyl.
We're going after fentanyl. It's a war on fentanyl. Don't worry, we're going to leave American freedoms intact. We're just going after the fentanyl. And you're going to trust the law enforcement agents who are decidedly anti-Second Amendment all across this country? They would, if they were given an order, the local law enforcement agencies would come to your house, kick in your door because they got a tip that you might be a danger to yourself and others under red flag laws. If they got a tip that you had an automatic weapon, the ATF would be surrounding your house right now. And having an automatic weapon is not against the Second Amendment. It says the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. There's no limitation. There's no classification on what kind of arm you can keep. But the ATF sees it different. Local law enforcement agencies see it different. Therefore, they are your enemies, and he is applauding them.
There is no time for us to waste on this job. And that's why under President Trump's leadership and General Bondi's leadership, we've been instructed to get after it. And that's exactly what we are doing. We have to especially get after it when we lose an American citizen every 7 minutes to a drug overdose. We have to especially get after it when a woman or child is raped in this country nearly every 6 minutes.
If we lose an American every 7 minutes due to drug overdose, how about we get terrorized every second of every day by the domestic terror cell? If you're really interested in eliminating vicious gangs, then why wouldn't you go after the banksters? Why wouldn't you go after the biggest terror cell on American soil, the domestic terrorists of the IRS? Why wouldn't you do that, Cash? Because you're not allowed to.
They get after it when there are 2 homicides nearly every hour in this country. Violent crime is exploding. And it is a direct result of the border invasion that occurred. But thanks to this administration and thanks to your relentless work on the field of battle to protect our citizenry, we are finally...
Most of those people that cross the border don't commit crimes. Americans are committing crimes against Americans. Am I saying that drug cartels are not a problem, that immigrants who don't respect Americans are not a problem? No, not at all. But the biggest problem is we have been cut off by the federal government from defending our own families against any kind of attack, no matter where it comes from.
We are saving American lives. We are providing our children with safe schools and playgrounds so that they can be educated and grow up in a fun neighborhood.
Did you ever once in your life look at the FBI or the ATF like that? The FBI and the ATF are here to save our lives. They're here to make sure that our children grow up in fun communities. It's ridiculous.
We all had the privilege of doing in this great community and in this great country. So when you go out there and you see your communities working with this interagency task force and you see our brave men and women of law enforcement, it is a team effort.
You mean the cowardly men and women who hide behind bushes and billboards just waiting for you to go 7 miles an hour over the speed limit so they can get you? Those brave men and women, the brave men and women that will pull you over because you didn't pay the state license plate tax, the ones who will pull you over and put that little gadget on your window saying that your tinting is too dark so that they can economically terrorize you, those brave men and women, the brave men and women who got a call and they've already shot your dog and now they got you held at gunpoint, they've already flashbanged your family, those brave men and women. Is that who you're talking about, Cash Patel? The brave men and women, like, say, in Mesa, Arizona, that killed Daniel Shaver. They had him surrounded. This guy was trying his best to comply with the rapid-fire commands, and they eliminated Daniel Shaver. Those brave men and women are the ones who brutally and savagely terrorized and tortured Johnny Wheatcroft in front of his family in Glendale. Those brave men and women? How about the ones who shot and killed Johnny Hurley after he saved the entire Arvada Police Department from a rogue madman with a gun?
Out here, every cast is a chance, and every catch a memory. If that sounds...
Not exactly brave men and women, a bunch of frickin' cowards who then get heroes' funerals.
This is not a one-stop, one-man, one group, one agency operation. It happens at every single level. Just yesterday, I was honored to meet with hundreds of law enforcement officers from around the country, and I was even more humbled to graduate 245 police officers from the FBI National Academy, representing 48 states and 24 countries. That is how you put the mission first. You bring these brave warriors who have already dedicated their lives to safeguard our communities. You bring them together to do it again and again and again. And the thing that inspires me most is that they have a relentless desire to make sure that they wake up and end the day in a community that is safer to you all.
No, they wake up with one goal in mind. No matter what, I've got to make it home safe. And you were talking about the honorable and heroic and warrior-like men and women in blue, the ones who will initiate civil asset forfeiture against you at the drop of a hat. Just like the Nevada Highway Patrol did on Stephen Lara, stealing his life savings from him when he harmed no one. Those brave men and women, those warriors, Cash.
Just last night, 7 narco trafficking thugs from Colombia were extradited and returned to American soil to face American justice. Just the other week, 29 Mexican narco traffickers from Mexico were repatriated here to America to face American justice. Just in that group alone, you are talking about over 5,000 kilograms of narcotics that would have poured into our country. And you'll see the type of damage that just a little bit of fentanyl can do to our children. And
how about a little bit of Zio bankers? How about just a little bit of politicians? How about the damage they can do to us, Cash? Why aren't you taking the FBI, the CIA, the ATF? Why aren't you taking all of the federal and state and local agencies and marching up to Washington's District of Criminals and arresting every single one of the 12,000 lobbyists who run that place? Why aren't you going to every central banking institution and arresting them for ripping the people off through fractional reserve banking? That's how, as a matter of fact, you know what? That's how drugs are incentivized across this country, because of the free, cheap, easy credit of the fiat currency petrodollar Federal Reserve note. That's how it's happening. So if you want to actually do some damage in this world as it relates to freeing Americans from the chains of their bondage, why don't you go after the banksters and the political parasites? But you won't, because you can't, because they won't let you, because they got you on a chain.
we're talking about thousands and thousands of kilos. Yes, that is a national security crisis. But the good news is the men and women of law enforcement, in conjunction with the brave warriors that we have in Congress, who have the courage to stand up and fight.
Wait, the brave warriors you have in Congress that are owned by AIPAC, that are controlled by Israel, those brave warriors of Congress. So not only do we have brave warriors behind the badge, wearing costumes out on the street, terrorizing the rest of us through civil asset forfeiture and red flag gun confiscation laws and all this other nonsense, we also have brave warriors in the halls of Congress that are dangling from Zio bankster AIPAC strings. This guy is clueless.
Fight for their representatives and fight for their constituencies, are leading the funding and legislation we need to make sure we get this mission done. This is not going to be a short-lived process. Certainly at the FBI, it is something we wake up to every single day and go to bed at every single night. And the thought is singular. What is the best way we can safeguard our citizenry? What are we doing worse? What are we doing better? And what's in between? And when we have those answers for you, you see them delivered in the halls of justice in the courts across this country. And that's the great work that is the tip of the spear. This mission must be 24/7, 365 from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. But beyond that, we must go extraterritorially, like I've just told you about. We must go down to the furthest reaches of the planet to make sure that we bring you the justice that you have voted for in this new administration. And we
got to go beyond the boundaries of the United States to go initiate justice on other people. And we need funding for this. That almost sounds like empire building, Cash, the very empire building you have claimed for years you're against.
We will never, ever stop fighting violent crime. That is the priority of the FBI, along with national security. And we will put every resource and every manning that we have on that mission. The FBI will play a very large part, and our interagency partners and our local and state law enforcement officers will start putting more and more and more handcuffs on the bad guys, and good cops across this country will be unleashed to be good cops on a daily basis. And the lasting promise that I will leave you with, and this is a message to the law enforcement community: you have always had the backs of the American people, so the Federal Bureau of Investigation and me as its director will have your backs. Thank you.
Law enforcement has always had the backs of the American people. The law enforcement who told you, hey, Anthony Fauci said you got to wear a mask, you need to wear a mask. The ones who initiated all the COVID 1984 by George Orwell crap, the ones who for decades have upheld Nixon's war against drugs, which isn't a war on drugs, it's a war on people. The ones who actually played a part in the war on terror, the ones who are for civil asset forfeiture and red flag gun confiscation laws, those are good cops. Those are the ones you're going to work with. Those are the ones you're going to paint as a hero. This guy is not on our side. It couldn't even be more clear. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought police in the comment section below. If you haven't done so already, like this video and share this video with everybody you know, because there's a lot of people who are hoodwinked by Kash Patel, the new FBI director.
Well, that's pretty self-explanatory.
Yep. Yeah, that doesn't sound good.
They're going after the people with fentanyl, but what about the people that released the bioweapon? It told us it was totally safe and effective.
Right. Don't want them votes.
And he was talking about the ATF will surround your house if they find out you have an automatic weapon, and local law enforcement. But we just shared a story a few months back where local law enforcement has been able to sell fully automatic weapons, military style, out, some of them out of the back of their car, their homes, gun shows, whatever. But they would mark it up 5 times the price, right? It'd be a $10,000 gun, and it'd probably be 5-10 times more is what you're going to get it when you.
Right, and they'll take they just take a so-called anonymous calls, right?
Yeah, the SWAT.
Yeah, so that sounds like brown shirts, right? We're telling on each other. Let's not do that. Let's not give them any ammo.
Yeah. So again, central casting, right? Because that's all it is.
Yeah.
Just wanted to share that his opinion. Where was that at? What channel? The disturbing illusion. That's it. But it's an unbiased. He covers both sides. He doesn't pick a side pretty much. Right? You got to call it out no matter whose side it is, because the Constitution says we the people, right? The power is inherent in the people. But as long as you're tacit and staying silent and thinking that someone outside of yourself is the savior, you're going to be disappointed. Right.
That's why knowing your the rights, the Constitution, all that helps you make the right decisions to know what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah. So another thing that he said was the partnership between the FBI and local law enforcement. They're the ones that's supposed to be standing in the way of the federal government, not teaming up with the federal government. But that's the sheriff, right? The sheriff has that kind of power.
Yeah, he can run them out of town.
But the FBI and the local police really don't get along. That's his narrative, what he's saying here. But that's a lot of propaganda. That's propaganda at its finest. Smith-Mundt Act. That's all it is. You know, it's that scripted. All of a sudden, you know, he's living, breathing FBI now. You know, but we'll see. But like he said, there has to be some stances that have to be changed. locally, but it looks like, just judging off of that, it's business as usual. The war on drugs, which is the war on the people, and the terrorism thing. We've just seen a case in Texas, was it Houston, the 17-year-old already got charged as soon as they made it a state law. So that's the start. They claimed ISIS, it's all bullshit narrative, right? But that's just like the Patriot Act. How did we get to that point, right? Somebody from Saudi Arabia hijacked some planes and flew them into some buildings, and instead of going after them, they tightened up the reins at the airports, doing body cavity searches and strip searches and all kinds of searches at the airport, and the people didn't do anything. People weren't guilty of anything, but the people always get the raw end of the deal after these psyops because of safety, right? They put you in the fear so that you beg for the safety, which is tyranny, more tyranny, right? But some people feel safer in that, and that's why the smart cities or the safe cities or whatever they call them are going to come into play. Hold on one second. So that's a little bit about Cash Patel. I think he might have mentioned Dan Bongino. I don't remember, but I know he has. It's freezing up. Let me go to this one. Here's the next thing on the pipe. Little Jimmy Dore. I'm only going to play a few minutes of it. Trump threatens war across the Middle East. More of the more of it's playing out. Of course, this all is linked to Israel, right?
Yep.
Come see us on tour in Hartford, Connecticut, Syracuse, Atlantic City, Levittown, Co-Host, Providence, San Jose, Toledo, Ohio. Go to jimmydore.com for tickets. So Trump is starting another war. He's bombing. I've ordered the United States military to launch a decisive and powerful military action against the Houthi terrorists in Yemen.
Houthi.
Do you remember him running on that? You remember him running on? I don't remember him running on. Hey, by the way.
Yeah. Hold on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh. Oh. I gotta share screen. I got kicked off. Share screen. Sorry about that. Here we go. Boom. There we go.
Someone said, Mike and Sheepdogs, I'd like to inform everyone that my friend received $13,000 bump on her Social Security payment on the 10th of March. Wow.
I think that's 13. I don't know if that's might be a typo.
Hey, America,
I think that's a lot.
Right. $13 bump.
It's either maybe $1,300 or $13. I don't know.
Yeah, some kind of typo, but that's the third person that I've heard that from. And I'm freezing up on my end too, so y'all just bear with us. We're trying to get it to play. Go ahead, Sheepdog.
All right.
So Trump is starting another war. He's bombing I've ordered the United States military to launch a decisive and powerful military action against the Houthi terrorists in Yemen. Do you remember him running on that? You remember him running on? I don't remember him running on. Hey, by the way,
Gulf of America or Greenland or this?
Yeah, I don't remember him saying, "Hey, if you elect me, I'm going to get us back into those Middle Eastern wars."
I watched every rally. I didn't hear him say that.
At the behest of Israel, because that's what this is.
Also, one little note, they're not called Houthis, and they're also the legitimate government of Yemen as voted for by their people and not the puppet state that's in one tiny corner of Yemen. They're not called Houthis. You know that?
So I didn't know that. They have waged an unrelenting campaign of piracy, violence, and terrorism against American and other ships, aircraft, and drones. Okay, that's largely bullshit, but I'm going to explain it to you in a second. Joe Biden's response was pathetically weak, so the unrestrained Houthis just kept going. It's been over a year since a U.S.-flagged commercial ship safely sailed through the Suez Canal, the Red Sea, or the Gulf of Aden. The last American warship to go through the Red Sea 4 months ago was attacked by the Houthis over a dozen times. Funded by Iran, the Houthi thugs have fired missiles at U.S. aircraft and targeted our troops and allies. That's like, after we bombed the shit out of them. You know, the biggest bombing campaign and wipeout of a people was Yemen up until October 7th. Up until this most recent thing with the Palestinians, where they're ethnically cleansing and genociding them and just bombing mostly women and children, it was Yemen, and that was us doing it. We were doing it with Saudi Arabia. Okay, so again, this is all about fossil fuels. That's what this is all about.
Well, also,
and about Israel, and about greater Israel.
I don't know what the right name for the Houthis is because it's hard to say, but the Houthis, they pulled off the first successful naval blockade in recorded history.
Yes,
without having a navy.
So anybody who knows their mythology knows the Ides of March are all about betrayal, right? And everyone who thought that Donald Trump was the anti-war president needs to realize that he's against the previous wars just so he could start his own. That's what this looks like.
Yeah, we're breaking up with our side piece, Ukraine, and getting back with our first wife, Israel.
That's right.
It was fun while it lasted, baby.
The Houthi attack on American vessels will not be tolerated. We will use overwhelming lethal force, blah, 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 the choked off, blah, blah, blah. Our brave fighters, blah, blah, blah.
It's interfering with Israel. That's why they're doing it.
That says exactly. To all the terrorists, your time is up, and your attack. The terrorists. You mean the terrorists that we funded in Syria? You mean ISIS? You mean Al Qaeda, the ones we invented? And ISIS.
You should check and make sure Bibi ain't funding the Houthis because he has a history of doing stuff like that.
You mean like Hamas? You mean the ones that Benjamin Netanyahu funded? You mean those terrorists? So now all of a sudden, so that's the game. Just so you get it right. The game is anybody that we want to bomb and kill, we just call them terrorists. Anybody we want to deport or we want to put in jail, we say you're a terrorist. That's how it works.
Well, you know, the guy they're deporting, they used the McCarthy-era laws that they used on Jewish Holocaust survivors that were leftists to call them commies and deport them.
So that's the irony. The only difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden in this situation is that Donald Trump is aware that this is going on.
He doesn't have to have Tony Blinken do it.
Right. So Yemen, here's from antiwar.com. U.S. airstrikes kills 53, including women and children. Trump officials are threatening more airstrikes as the Houthis, officially known as Ansar Allah. That's what they're.
I can say that. I don't know why I thought of something. Yeah, I can remember Ansar Allah. Yeah.
They're vowing to a response.
Looks like you kids are getting drafted to go to Sandyland after all.
Looks like it. So I just wanted to show you this. So Thomas Massey says the military-industrial complex demands about $50 billion a year in war. As soon as we quit spending $50 billion a year in Afghanistan, we started spending $50 billion a year in Ukraine, just like I predicted. Watch where the next $50 billion a year goes when we stop spending it on Ukraine. The military-industrial complex is always hungry. Regarding U.S. activity in Yemen, I recently said to watch for a new military engagement to compensate for the pullback in Ukraine. The military-industrial complex demands $50 billion from our So that
Best friend is full aircraft carrier. You have friends
Glenn Greenwald says the U.S. has been bombing Yemen since George Bush 43. Obama massively escalated it by aiding the Saudi war there and bombing himself. Biden bombed the Houthis 1,000 times in 2024 alone. So this idea that Trump is like, they're attacking us. No, we've been bombing the hell out of them, as usual.
Well, look, once the Greater Israel Project is done, then we can stop doing this.
Then we can stop doing this. So here, let me finish this. Biden bombed the Houthis 1,000 times in 2024, all to protect Israel from its refusal to allow food and aid into Gaza. The reason the Houthis are attacking. That's why. So the Houthis.
And that's a war crime. When you cut off food and aid into Gaza, that was a war crime.
Yep, crimes against humanity. Yep.
Well, on top of bombing them, women and children and shit. So this has been going on for a minute in the background.
Have a brother.
While we're being distracted with all these other things, via the media. So you see how Israel controls the media. They tell them what to focus on, right?
Right, like the Epstein files, and then nothing, right?
Right. And we can go all day with the what files and nothing, burgers. A lot of nothing burgers, right? Somebody needs to open up a nothing burgers and another restaurant called Dick Taters, where you have like badass mashed potatoes and.
Well, we got the Krabby Patty.
Right.
My goodness.
So you see, this is what is going on. Once you see the bigger picture, you see how but it's playing out and it's exposing people for going around blowing people off the map to take the land and minerals and the oil and shit like that, and taking control of things and world domination and stealing people's land from other patriots. You wouldn't like it if somebody came into your country and said, hey, or accused you of a false flag attack, terrorist attack, which you didn't do, and then come in via military and tell you that you have to move. They're taking over.
Just bringing to the forefront what they've been doing this whole time.
Imagine you were eating dinner and across the street is somebody they deem a terrorist and they blow his ass up and it blows up the whole neighborhood.
Right.
They aren't getting these people alone. They come with, they have their families with them and shit, right? Most of the time, right? Just like you would. So imagine that. Women and children. Right. Then we said, like I said before, when you choose when you crown someone else, your kids end up serving in the military, and this is what they're talking about. The military industrial complex is, if you go back to Trump's State of the Union address, he talks about how he's going to be funding the military industrial complex even more. In his view, he thinks now is not the time to be, backing off of that and redirecting that money to the people back into, maybe helping the veterans that you sent to war, that you shit on when they come back and they can't get no assistance. They're struggling, and then next thing you know, they're addicted and homeless. You want more and more of our children to keep participating in these wars that are being put on between, it's not even our wars, it's Israel, Netanyahu's wars, ever since 9/11, right? Netanyahu's been in place with his Polish last name. But we're seeing what's played out over the years, even with the natives here, how they came in and they're doing the same thing in Palestine. And then they're doing the same thing in Ukraine, doing the same thing in Greenland or wherever, their interests are. right? In the Middle East. But, you know, just be made aware of, you know, I support military, but just know what you're doing when you get in there. You're not going to return the same, no matter what, whether you see war or not. I don't know what that is, but it could be the line of vaccines throughout your careers or whatever. It could also be war, PTSD, stuff like that. But $50 million to right here, it says 50 billion a year. That could be, you know, I'm not saying that 50 billion is what they're saying could solve the world hunger, or at least the homeless and hungry in America alone.
With the people in Gaza who are being slaughtered because they were the previous ones being slaughtered by the U.S. war machine. That's why. And
it's sad they haven't allied themselves with a greater colonial power like the others, and then they're just sitting there trying to be principled.
So when they were
assholes,
so when they were starving the people of Gaza and slaughtering them, the Yemen people in Yemen said, "Hey, we're not going to allow your ships to go and do commerce with Israel as long as they're doing this slaughter." So that's where that comes from. So that whole story Trump told you was made up. It was all made up to make the United States a victim. We're not the victim. Of course, we're not the victim. Justin Amash says, I'll say it again. It is unconstitutional for President Trump to engage in acts of war in Yemen. It doesn't matter how appropriate you think it is for the United States to take on who.
Unconstitutional means it should have went through Congress, right?
That's right. Per the Constitution.
Houthis or terrorists or anyone.
But Congress would have been on board.
Congress
anyway,
has not authorized.
because they all take money from Israel. So, I mean, they're going to do whatever they're told. Just understand that.
Right.
Is the war in Yemen. Engaging in war there is unlawful. That's so. After 9/11, they gave a blank check to any president who wants to do a war, so Congress doesn't have to vote on it. So we didn't vote on the war in Libya. We didn't vote on the war in Syria. We didn't vote on the war in Ukraine. We didn't vote on bombing Yemen. We didn't vote on Somalia, the Sudan. We're not voting on any of this. And that's so nobody can be held accountable. That's what this is about. So Glenn Greenwald says this is how the DC war machine keeps the United States on a footing of endless war, ensuring the coffers of the arms industry are always full and its own authority always increasing. What Trump vowed to stop.
The Doge cuts are nonsense, it turns out.
It turns out. They're all distraction.
Whining about and defacing Tesla cars about.
It's a distraction.
All they did was take the money and from the thing that I guess the Hillary Satanist cabal wants to do what Bibi Netanyahu wants. And they raised it $6 billion. So there's been no cuts.
No cuts.
It's all bullshit.
There's been absolutely, that's right. So Trump endorsed raising the military budget $6 billion. So all the cuts. So if we had, by the way, I want to say this to Glenn Greenwald. If we had to sit around and wait for congressional approval for every war that somebody comes up with, it would take at least another 45 minutes. Anyway, so this is from antiwar.com. A major round of U.S. airstrikes that hit Yemen on Saturday killed at least 53 people, including women and children. According to Yemen's Saba news agency, at least 5 children and 2 women were among the dead. Another 98 were wounded by the U.S. bombing, and the health ministry said many of the casualties were civilians, while the United States is claiming it killed multiple leaders of Yemen's Houthis, officially known as Ansar Allah. Oh, yay. Yay. We're fighting terrorists. The United States...
If you block SodaStream from being sold in the U.S., you got to go.
Yeah. The United States is the world's terrorists. Jesus H. We bombed Yemen 1,000 times in 2024 alone, okay? A total of 40 U.S. airstrikes were reported to hit Yemen, primarily focusing on the northern Sada governorate, Strikes also hit the Yemeni capital. Targets that were reported hit included power stations, residential areas, and homes, and some Houthi military sites. We love hitting residential areas because they don't shoot back. And they make perfect locations to put new smart cities, just like they do here.
Yeah.
The strikes marked the first time the United States bombed Yemen under the new Trump administration. Hip, hip, hooray. Hip, hip, hooray. The Houthis announced on Sunday that they fired back, with Yemeni military spokesman saying the aircraft carrier USS Harry Truman was targeted with 18 ballistic and cruise missiles, as well as drones. U.S. officials later told Reuters that the U.S. military downed 11 drones fired from Yemen and tracked one missile that failed in flight. The leader of the Ansar Allah, or the Houthis, said that in response to the U.S. airstrikes, both military and commercial vessels in the region will now be targeted by Houthi missiles and drones. So this is President Trump ramping up a war for no reason.
No, there's a reason.
Well, I mean,
Israel.
for no reason that helps.
Their economy's hurting.
Doesn't help the United States. Doesn't help our people. Doesn't help a worker.
Helping a friend doesn't help you.
Doesn't help
your best friend in the Middle East. Our only friend.
Our only friend. President Trump announced the start of the bombing campaign on Saturday and said the Houthis must stop their attacks on shipping and U.S. warships. However, Ansar Allah hasn't targeted any ships in months since it ceased attacks once a ceasefire deal was reached in Gaza back in January.
Wow. Why is there always a nice little cherry on top of the
so that's the
Sunday in my mouth?
So that's what so there it is.
Oh, that's great. I love the Hassanabi has kicked off Twitch for promoting the Houthis. And the Houthis haven't attacked anyone after a ceasefire deal.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give it to Hassanabi. He's smarter than Cenk ever was.
So again, that's all made up while Trump is bombing Yemen right now. That shows that's all made up. And we don't use real reasons to attack someone. We attack them, and when they attack us back in self-defense, we say they attacked us out of nowhere. We're like, the obnoxious women who try to get someone to punch them in the mall so they can sue them.
You do all those murders you want and take all my money to do it, and why should I have any say in it? Okay, but I don't want to ever hear about Putin ever again about how bad Putin is.
I mean, I know. Trump and other U.S. officials are also justifying the strikes by framing them as a way to protect global shipping. Although, and here's the part Trump won't tell you, critics are pointing out that the Red Sea being shut down has a minimal impact on the United States. Well, what the media won't tell you is this shipping route is mainly used to get exports from Asia to Europe, Thomas Massey said on Twitter. Its economic value to the United States is primarily in importing oil from the Middle East, but we can drill our own oil. Most U.S. imports from Asia come via the Pacific.
What about Israel? Is he forgetting about Israel?
He's forgetting about Israel, of course he is. During his previous administration, President Trump supported a brutal Saudi United Arab Emirates war against the Houthis and used his veto power to kill legislation passed by Congress to end U.S. involvement in the conflict. Isn't that interesting? According to UN members, which are considered a low estimate, the U.S.-backed war killed 377,000 people.
Oh, Trump's also locked in with Saudis. Don't just blame it all on Israel. Don't forget the Saudis.
Don't forget the Saudis.
Don't focus on one. We are beholden to all kind of foreign power.
And half of those people, half of the 400,000 people that we killed, half of them died of starvation. Okay. All right.
All right. That's enough of that. Sometimes you got to shatter the illusion.
Yep. Yeah, it looks like it froze up and kicked him off again. Sorry about that. Okay, I got something to read while he tries to get back on there from the Great Works. It says, "Are you a ruler over your own kingdom or self? A sovereign is a being ruler over no other, but our own kingdom of self. Our thoughts, emotions, and actions are in unison, harmony, and non-duality. Our thoughts are in the state of intelligence. Our emotions are in state of care. Our courage has given us the will to act in proper moral ways in the world. We become united, whole, and one with oneself, so that we are not in internal contradiction, opposition, conflict, etc. A sovereign exists in degrees as well because it's completely unified with truth and act in harmony with it and themselves. Society is currently constructed to ensure we are not fully capable of uniting with truth and ourselves by having us agree to live in a certain way that is contrary to the principles of truth in order for us to survive in the current modality of living. Morals are qualities of behavior, manner, character, disposition. Morals are an arrangement, order, and create a state of being from the will to control and regulate ourselves, placed apart from the unregulated passions, desires, whims, wants, and the carnal, beastly, lower, base, animalistic consciousness. To affirm ourselves into a position and situation of higher order, living in alignment with will of creation, higher self, the true self. Beings who can discern morals are a higher order of consciousness, and this sets them apart from the others who are not capable of harnessing this force of good to such a degree of potential manifestation. With the higher order of consciousness comes higher order creative capabilities for good instead of evil. This is the ultimate personal responsibility we have to truth and morality, the force of good. Failure to understand reality and navigate it with humility under natural law will result in the creation of evil and devolution towards chaos. The degree of truth and morality embodied in each of our choices, actions, and behaviors will determine the degree of true unity, freedom, and peace we can achieve collectively. Morality is the foundation of baseline for true unity. All other differences are less significant. Violations of universal cosmic spiritual natural moral law do not result in the production of true freedom, peace, or unity. We have, own, and bear the weight of our own actions and behavior. Contradiction can show us the unreality and false harmony conceived in our own minds or our hearts that lead to false or wrong actions. Those who are so enamored and entrenched into the false self and false living have a diminished capacity to recognize and feel wrongs demonstrated in reality. Until we learn how to be responsible for our choices and actions in alignment with natural law, we will keep repeating the same mistakes and creating more collective self-inflicted suffering through our choice to be ignorant, apathetic, lazy cowards, living in a trance like fantasy reality. We need to admit wrong so that we can learn how to solve our problems and get things right. We can't force anyone to change the way of their thinking, but we can influence others to help them gain an understanding of the many truths so that they may in turn choose to change themselves in alignment with it. Most people are trapped in ego, personality, identity, correlations with lies. Perhaps an increase in negative results for everyone. Chaos will bring us to a point of realization to accept we are the problem and point the finger at ourselves, to realize that thinking the same ways and doing the same things will not achieve the expected different results than what we are currently getting. In the end, institutions fool us and destroy consciousness. And let me see. Here, hold on one second. Oh, he's trying to get on there still. Let me do another one. Okay, the great works again. Manifestations of natural law in our world. By moving through each positive expression of the generative force of love, we arrive at the manifestation of order of everything we recognize and experience as good. Truth and love bring forward freedom, order, peace, harmony, and goodness. Love expands consciousness. Contrary to using the force of fear to generate our experience through ignorance, confusion, attempting to externally control others is the current condition we have manifested, known as chaos or evil. Fear contradicts consciousness. Fear puts consciousness into a grave. The condition we can be changed by helping people to understand natural law principles. Using the positive generative polarity does not create any of the negative expressions. The ever expensive force of consciousness known as love or truth can only create positive expressions. Embodying truth, love, and expanding conscious awareness does not foster ignorance. Developing knowledge does not create internal confusion. Becoming a sovereign does not create external control. Living in freedom of anarchy and personal responsibility of self-governance and self-rulership does not manifest as chaos in the world. Choosing to align ourselves with the expansion of force consciousness, which is love and truth, is how we manifest what is right, good, and true, which is what we should want to create instead of our current condition resulting from fear, ignorance, confusion, and control. Love embraces truth. Fear rejects truth. Okay, and let's see. Texas, I have a article here that says Texas House Representatives files a bill to abolish Texas parks and wildlife departments. So that will free that up. The lands, right? Let's see. That was March 16th. In Austin, Texas, Texas State House Representative has filed a bill to abolish the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department and transfer its functions and duties to other state agencies. State Representative Pat Curry, who represents Texas House District 56 near Waco, filed the bill on Thursday. HB 4938, if passed, would abolish the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department and the Texas Parks and Wildlife Commission and transfer its functions to the Texas General Land Office, Department of Agriculture, and Department of Public Safety. Harris County Deputy Sheriff that's another one. Sorry. Hold on. He's still trying to get on there. Mike, do you have anything, or do you want me? Can I forward you something?
Go ahead for it. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
It was a TikTok.
Yeah. Hold on. I'm finding another one. That one I got. It was right there. So. It's coming from Sheepdog.
All right. So you want to play all three of those TikToks?
Yes, please.
All right. Oh, this is a pretty good story, Mr. Sheepdog. Y'all will enjoy this. Everybody pay attention if you can. This is pretty cool.
And the church made a new religion about his teachings. Jesus wanted to create leaders, and the church created followers. Jesus taught that I and my Father are one, meaning there is nothing between us and God, and then the church put him between us and God. Jesus was the messenger, and then the church made him the Godhead. Jesus said to love our neighbors as ourselves, and then the church killed millions in his name. Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is upon us, and the church said that it was somewhere else. Jesus said we would surpass the things that he did, and the church said that we would never be able to be as good as him. Maybe time to liberate the teachings of Jesus from the church of Jesus.
You want to know why people are so confused about their history? Because you can take 3 different American history books. These are all original. Okay? 1898, 1839, and 1900. Okay, they're falling apart. That's so bad. But anyway, this is 3 different history books, and they'll tell 2 different stories. This one from 1900 says, well, what was the Western Hemisphere before the impact of the white racists upon it? It was a vast in the wild. The 3 Americas were an unmodified domain of nature, darkened with solitary forests, dappled with great prairies, emphasized with majestic mountains, and traversed by the 3 mightiest rivers of the globe. Doesn't talk about the pyramids, doesn't talk about any of the embankments or the ramparts or any of the stuff that these other 2 books talk about. Why is that? Yeah, because if you just go from 1900 to 1898, it says completely different.
Mike, there's music playing over that.
Granted, the Indians and the remnants were ignorant.
Mike. Are you hearing that music?
Yeah, I can't find it.
Yeah, you couldn't even hear the video.
There we go.
You want to know why people are so confused about their history? Because you can take 3 different American history books. These are all originals, okay? 1898, 1839, and 1900. Okay, they're falling apart, but I'm so thankful to have them. But anyway, you can take these 3 different history books, and they'll tell 2 different stories. This one from 1900 says, for what was the Western Hemisphere before the impact of the white races upon it? It was a vast world in the wild. The 3 Americas were an unmodified domain of nature, darkened with solitary forests, dappled with great prairies, emphasized with majestic mountains, and traversed by the 3 mightiest rivers of the globe. Doesn't talk about the pyramids, doesn't talk about any of the embankments or the ramparts or any of the stuff that these other 2 books talk about. Why is that? Yeah, because if you just go from 1900 to 1898, it says completely different. At first, it was taken for granted that the Indians, as the Redmen's were ignorantly called, were the aboriginal denizens of the country. But the mounds, ruined cities, pottery, and other remains found on all parts of the land concerning which the Indians could further no information and which showed a state of civilization far in advance of theirs were proof that a great people had existed here in the remote past. And about 70 years before either of these books were created, this one says, this is American history. As a specimen of antiquity, what is comparable in the point of interest with this book? Suppose that in searching the mounds that are scattered so widely over this country, the silent, aged, mysterious remembrances of some populous race, once carrying on all the business of life, where now are only the wild forests of many centuries, a race of whom we ask so often, who were they? Whence they came? Whither they went? After reading all three, my question would simply be, how can an unmodified domain of nature have fucking pyramids? Huh? In embankments, in mounds with bones in them, and just civilizations, ancient cities it talked about. Come on, guys, we gotta keep this shit consistent.
Well, mine's not cooperating now.
Crazy. You
Yeah.
showed those two books. I posted those two books in the
Yeah.
chat before. That's really good information. One on Tartaria and then the Moorish and Tartaria. Yeah, he's still trying to get back on there. I don't know what happened.
Can you see the? Oh. All right, here's a little bit about the one side of Donald Trump, right?
Yeah, his lineage. Yep.
Yeah.
So this one is the Scottish ancestry of Donald Trump, and this is Mary Ann MacLeod, and her dad is Malcolm W. MacLeod. Now this guy is called Donald MacLeod, and down here, if you remember from the last picture, we've got Malcolm W. MacLeod, which Donald is Malcolm's father, and here we've got Angus Mackay. Hold on, Mackay. I thought this MacLeod stuff went all the way back to clan status. No? Oh, okay, so we've got Angus Mackay, who is the father of Donald MacLeod, but then Angus's father is called Alexander Mackay. Right here. So the MacLeods have already disappeared. Like, they didn't appear until, where are we at? The 1700s, the mid 1700s. Some people who thought that Clan MacLeod was a thing have no idea. This guy's called Alexander Mackay. His maternal grandparents is Anna Mackay and Hugh Munro. Anna Mackay with her father Donald Mackay, and the rest of her family here, including Alexander Mackay and Robert Mackay. There's her half siblings, Donald Mackay, Barbara Mackenzie, John Mackay. Now, Anna Mackay's grandfather was called Hugh Mackay. Now, this Mackay name stays the same name for centuries. Now, this guy here, Angus Mackay, like I said, the Mackay name stayed for centuries. It started here, 1360, with Angus Mackay. His mother was, right, so his wife was Elizabeth MacDonald, and her parents were Ian MacDonald and Margaret Stewart. Now, if you're wondering why I just looked like that when I read the name Margaret Stewart, it's because her husband was Robert Stewart, who was a king of Scotland. Now, just to show everybody, Elizabeth MacDonald was the daughter of Ian MacDonald and Margaret Stewart. And here we've got Robert Stewart. And look who his parents are. Walter Stewart and Marjorie Bruce. Does that make this guy Robert the Bruce? It turns out no, it wouldn't. Because Marjorie Bruce's own father was called Robert Bruce, King of Scotland. Now, did you see how many families we just had to go through to get right the way back to Donald Trump's Scottish ancestry? That was not the case for the first video I made about the Hohenzollern family. Now, the Scottish MacLeod link that everybody was sent to for some reason, which doesn't exist after a certain point in the mid 1700s, 1600s. Well, for me, I feel like people were sent down those paths on purpose, because this is the right path that everybody should have followed. You see, this is where the Stuart house, the House of Stuart, really originated from. And so if we didn't follow these links, we wouldn't be doing things right at all. But if you keep watching, you'll notice these links always lead to the same people. Don't get me wrong, not these early people, but I know we're still only around 1286 to 1292. Now this one with Walter is the first time that I see that this family have made moves into a noble family by marrying into the Bruce family, thus giving us the line of Roberts for Robert the Bruce. There's the third line of Roberts for Robert the Bruce. And then it passed from Robert to James I, James I on to James II, and then obviously James IV, James V, Mary Queen of Scots. That's who it passed on to. And now we're back with the two Jameses again. And we're in the 1600s now. Next came Charles I, and then Charles II. And here we have James II and VII, who enjoyed two periods on the throne. Now we have Mary II, then William III and II, then Anne. Then we've got George I, and then George II, and George III too. Then we've got George IV. Then we have William IV. Oh look, who we're back to again, Victoria. Now if you remember from Donald Trump's Hohenzollern video, his Hohenzollern ancestry, this lady was the grandmother to the Hohenzollern dynasty. This lady is also related to Donald Trump's Stuart line too. So Donald Trump has two different lineages that lead to the same royalty. Now, just to be double sure, I'm going to keep going. So we're at Edward VII, and then we're at George V. Now Edward VIII, George VI, and last but not least, Elizabeth II. So there it is, everybody. Directly from the House of Stuart right up to the House of Windsor, which used to be formerly known as Saxe, Gotha, Coburg. The links don't lie. People do. So we've had the Hohenzollern family, and now we've got the Stuart family, who have both ended up being part of the Saxe, Gotha, Coburg family. Both of these families, separate families, both ended up in the same noble royal family of England that rules today. Go figure. Oh, and if you're not following me yet, you flipping should be. And come onto my page as well and tap my notification bell at the top and click all, so you don't miss none of my future uploads.
Wow.
So it's all in the bloodline. They're all related.
Yeah.
What if the concept of an NPC or non-player character is actually thousands of years old and referenced in ancient texts? A hylic is a term originating from Gnosticism, referring to a person who is entirely materialistic and driven by physical desires with little to no spiritual awareness. Now, the word Gnostic comes from the word gnosis, which means known. Gnostics were unalived and persecuted during the Inquisitions for their heretical views. Their heretical views and scriptures in the Nag Hammadi painted a picture of a false god, a demiurge who was jealous and wanted desperately to be worshipped. Now, the Gnostics also taught that Jesus came to deliver us from the enslavement of the false demiurge by showing us our divine nature, inviting us to be like him, and to break free from the bondage of tyrannical dogma and laws based on fear and obedience. Now, NPCs and Hylics, they served as valuable tools for the jealous demiurge, and they still do to this day. Have you ever had a conversation with a dogmatic believer who seems fully tranced by dogma and appeared to be programmed like a computer? They don't care if you believe in or love Jesus Christ. It's all about what you believe in otherwise. Now, Gnostic teachings, humanity was often categorized into three different types. One, Hylics, those completely absorbed in the material world, ruled by physical needs, pleasures, societal illusions. They lack spiritual insight and are seen as trapped in the lower level of existence. Then there were the Psychics, those who have some level of spiritual awareness but are still influenced by the material world and their emotions. Lastly, Pneumatics, those who are fully awakened to divine knowledge, gnosis, and operate from a place of full spiritual truth. NPCs or Hylics are often described as being under the control of the demiurge, the false creator god who keeps souls trapped in the illusion of the material realm. This concept aligns with many esoteric and mystical traditions that view awakening as a process of breaking free from material enslavement and recognizing one's true divine nature. This rabbit hole runs deep, and the programming is intertwined in many of the world's spiritual and religious belief systems. It's fractal, self-perpetuating, like a Russian nesting doll. Now the question is, are we and you ready to break free from the trap and web of false reality? Fibonacci spiral, which is often associated with the golden ratio, natural growth patterns, it's actually an artificial system imposed upon creation to keep consciousness cycling through the same predictable, limiting patterns, trapped in the illusion of linear time, death, and reincarnation. This is similar to how the NPCs remain trapped in materialism, literal interpretations of spiritual concepts, blind acceptance of dogmas, unaware that there is something beyond their biological drives, societal programming, and conditioned beliefs. Now, just as the Fibonacci sequence is endlessly self-referential, leading back into itself, the Hylics continue repeating the same cycles of suffering, consumption, and illusion, unable to break free. Reincarnation, heaven and hell, mental, emotional, and personality patterns are all part of the loop. The path of awakening is the crystal spiral, which is seen as a true organic structure of divine mathematics, always going back to source, reflective, expansive, and interconnected pattern of creation. Unlike the Fibonacci, which contracts and limits energy, the crystal spiral represents limitless energy, expansion, divine flow, and a direct connection to eternal source, true God. This mirrors the journey from being a Hylic, trapped in material illusion, to awakening as a pneumatic, one who has attained gnosis and alignment with divine truth. Moving into the crystal spiral's energy represents breaking free from the artificial construct and contracts, reclaiming your soul's true sovereignty. The question is, are you ready to accept this truth? And are you ready to activate your true self? Comment if you want to know more.
No, you're back. Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, no problem. No problem at all. Sheepdog's back.
Yeah, they don't like me tonight. It took a minute.
So the last few videos that we've been sharing not only expose the narrative, right, just how they repackages and make us think it's something new when really it's not. And then not only do they expose the narrative in the last few videos we showed you, they also exposed it's all the same royalty. It's all the same lineage. It all leads back to the same stuff right now.
Yep, they just changed the names, so it throws us off. He did really good research, tracing that down. Yeah,
he did. Wow. Go ahead, Sheepdog.
What did y'all do?
We played the
Well, we wrote
Some videos.
We wrote a couple inmate letters to Mar-a-Lago.
Oh yeah.
He played some of those TikTok videos.
Excuse me. Yeah, somebody on Mar-a-Lago is want to shake us down now. So
Right.
Oh.
If they send the robots get in a cardboard box, the military defeated them with going inside a cardboard box.
Wow.
Did we play this one?
Jesus did not want to do it.
Yeah, he played that one. Sorry.
All right.
Yeah, you couldn't see what he played.
Oh, did cheating show you how much his gas prices went up? I mean, down.
Right. That was sarcastic. Yeah. I don't know where he is, but that's pretty high.
I think he's in California somewhere.
Oops.
He said,
"Yeah."
What does it say? Gas prices came down is what I heard. Bullshit. All good. It's all good. Better things are coming.
Yeah, they are.
Gotta get those stickers that said I did that. I voted for that.
Damn.
Right. Remember when they had all those on Biden on there? Yeah.
Yeah.
That was kind of funny.
They are discussing required COVID vaccine for citizenship in the USA, folks. They have no plans on stopping this jab. Discussing this in the Senate at present from Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin. COVID-19 vaccine requirements for citizenship. Did we do all these?
Not that one. He did that one, but not that one. He didn't do that one. I didn't see
All right, I got a research assignment for you. If you think the police are here to protect you and they said they help you, you're fucking incorrect 100,000,000,000%. As a matter of fact, it's been ruled in multiple different court cases where, and you can look this up. Matter of fact, I'll give you one to look up for yourself. You can be like, get the fuck out of here. Really? Look up the Supreme Court case of the gentleman that tried to sue the police due to the fact that he was on a train in New York and he got jabbed a bunch of times by this random ass dude while the police stood by watching him get repeatedly fucking stabbed over and over and over again. And he tried to sue the police and said they were responsible because they were supposed to be preventing crime, in the Supreme Court ruled that they are not, in fact, here to protect you. They do not have to put their life on the line for you, and that is not what their purpose is. They are here to enforce policies, my friend, of statutes and ordinances, which have nothing to do with stopping crime. They only respond to it to give charges.
Imagine that.
Right? That's why when you call the police, somebody usually goes to jail, if not both of you. They'll find something to charge somebody with.
I'll be right back, y'all.
Did you play this one?
Constitutionally,
no.
You have found that it is illegal or against the Constitution for anyone to be charged a property tax on their real estate.
Yes, in the last 5 years, 21.25 trillion of property overvaluation has occurred, from which in 2024, the system stole $450 billion from
the property owners. The entire system is a fraud. We have the evidence, we're proving it, we're stating it, we've stated it in the past, except now we're stating it straight to the DOJ. Does this apply to all 50 states and DC? It's worse than you think. It literally applies, believe it or not, to every single citizen of the United States of America, not just the tax-paying real estate property owners. Well, who owns those central appraisal districts that are committing that fraud? Well, the answer is the school districts and the taxing entities. The school districts come out and they say, well, we need more schools because this is about the children. The bottom line is, this is not about the children. This is about pensions. Your children are being used as shields. Constitutionally.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we need $2 billion for this school district from the federal government. And they're like, yeah, no problem. Just allow us to do our school training, terrorism training in kids' schools.
Right, terrorize the kids. They fight freedom, not for freedom.
What is the ascension from 3D into 5D? What is it really? Nobody talks about that. Very little people talk about it. Why? Because very little people know what it is. This is 3D, and this is 5D. And all that happens in that ascension, that people think it's a dimension somewhere. No, it's only the perceptual move from here to here. That's all. 3D to 5D is only 20 centimeters.
Oh my gosh.
I just gotta go up, make sure I didn't miss anything real quick, guys. So we did the Texas Park and Wildlife.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So here we go. When the distance is unknown, that's when you find out who you are.
Yep.
This will load. That's while I'm waiting for that. You did the books?
Yes. Mike did,
Oh,
yes.
yeah, that was a good one. You showed this?
That's a good book right there. By James W. Lee, about the One World Tartaria. That's a really good book. It's 26% off on Amazon.
Here's another good book. Yesterday was St. Patrick's Day, right?
Yes.
Here's another good one. Irish wisdom preserved in the Bible and pyramids. Because they have pyramids everywhere, right?
Yeah, that's really good. It goes over the monk mounds, and yeah, it's a really good book.
So it also talks about how some of the scriptures in the King James come from the Irish Bible, right? And the
scenes. Yeah.
All right, there we go.
has come and gone. And a lot of us are in the same fucking place we were last year. So we start making promises to ourselves about, hey, I'm gonna lose some weight, I'm gonna do better in school, I'm gonna be better here, be better there. But guess what happens? When all of that noise is gone, it's quiet, and it's you against you, and now all those endorphins are gone. And I promise you made by getting up early and getting after it to go lose weight, study harder, guess what? It's a lot fucking harder now. That repetition becomes a lot harder now. So a lot of us can't do things on our own. So find somebody in your life. So when you throw that towel in, they throw that motherfucker back at you and say you're not fucking done yet. Stay true to yourself. Stay hard. Every year around with God, everybody has. It's like a tradition. We do a New Year's resolution. What we do is we get gym memberships. We plan to lose weight. We get in races. We promise ourselves these things. But very few times do people actually do it. And as far as New Year's resolutions, all you need to wait till New Year's. Why don't you do it now? Let's stop waiting for tomorrow to do something today. So this year, I challenge you to say you can do something and do it. What the fuck are you waiting on? We sleep 1/3 of our fucking lives. And we think we can take fucking days off. We think we have the right to sit back and give ourselves fucking options on which way we're gonna go in life. Am I gonna run today? Am I gonna work out today? Well, it's Christmas. It's New Year's. It's my birthday. You think time gives a fuck that it's Christmas, that it's New Year's, that it's your birthday? You give yourself too many fucking options. Let me tell you one thing. Time is running out. You keep on sitting around wondering what the fuck you want to do. You're still running out of time. So make sure you do one thing. Stop following the fucking crowd. They may take time off, but you can't afford to. Stay hard. Oh, it's that fucking time of year again. It's New Year's resolution time. What am I gonna do? Lose weight, do better at work, study harder. Most of us fail at that shit. Every year we go about 2 fucking weeks, and we're fucking done. A compensation come. A compensation shoot versus you. That alarm clock goes off. It's time to get after it. It's gonna be you in your mind. That's when the demon comes out. Talks to you. Hey, go back to sleep, but fuck. Stay hard. Stay the fuck. Get the fuck up. 2020, a lot of people lost jobs, lost businesses, lost family members. A lot of folks spent a lot of time in the hospital on ventilators. That should have caused a lot of demons in your brain. Folks see how much I work out. They think I'm running from demons. It's not demons, it's discipline. And I'm a disciple of discipline. You cannot run the demons. They'll always find you. Only way to beat them motherfuckers is look at them eye to eye. Make them your bitch. What separates me from other people is they go into a daunting task, and the task is overwhelming. You have to be open-minded to the possibilities that I can do this. Once you shut your mind down to the possibility that it can be achieved, there's no way it can happen. If you're in a fight, you have to attack. You have to keep attacking. The enemy has to know he is not going to give up. You must break the soul of whatever the fuck is in front of you. Devise ways to break a soul of a human being, of an object, of whatever's in front of you. If you keep on attacking something, nothing wants to stand in front of anything that is relentless. Nothing. They tell you how you're supposed to feel. So you are feeling that way. I was like, don't let these motherfuckers tell you how you're supposed to feel. No, it's day one, motherfucker. But you have to have the will the heart, the courage to go that distance when you're exactly jacked up. You have nothing left to give and give more. Get myself jacked in a horrible environment where everybody's miserable. Find strength in the misery. Because you can get a lot of power through misery. Using all that misery for tons and tons and tons of drive and motivation. Take these motherfuckers' souls. We start fueling off of that. We start fueling off the fact that, man, it takes 1 second of energy to steal everybody's. And then you have all the energy you need. That's all you need. You need to look at someone's eyes. You know how it is when you fight somebody, you broke that motherfucker. He's like, oh God, man, I don't want to go back to the next round. And you feel like, my God, I can fight all day. You have to take great pleasure in the fact that no one wants to be where the fuck you're at right now. Great pleasure. It must make you know, it has to bring a passion out of you. It has to bring something very, very weird out of you, man. Like, you know, people don't really understand what that is. When you're in the worst environment possible, the worst situation possible, and everybody's looking like, God, man, I hope this ends. And you see that. Time slows down and you see that. You're feeling that. Everybody has that look on their face like, God, this gotta go. I don't want to be anymore. I was in the military. We call these instructor-led runs. Most of the time we knew the start and end point. So on the way back, I start seeing people getting happy and shit. Because the end was near. But there were some asshole instructors that would hear the happiness and go right on past the end point. When that happened, everybody stopped talking. Heads stopped dropping. And I started taking fucking soul. At that time, I knew what happened in their mind. They were living off the hope factor. They hoped the instructors would stop running. They hoped the water was never cold. They hoped the weather was fucking good. I don't live off that hope shit. I wish the water was cold. I wish them motherfucking instructors keep on fucking running. I wish for fucking rain. But the ending is unknown. And the distance is unknown. Not that you know who the fuck you are. Stay hard.
That's where we're at. Right?
That's right. Don't give up.
People thought the end was near. Right. When the distance is unknown, people's heads started dropping. Chat went silent.
Yep.
We got to reassess the situation and realize this is a long distance run. This wasn't no sprint.
Because it's the journey. It's a journey that makes you find yourself.
It's not the destination. You're in a hurry to get to the destination, bypassing the journey, and then you're gonna realize it was the journey. Journey, don't stop believing.
That's right.
So that last piece was just a little bit of motivation to, no matter what situation, it doesn't have to be working out or anything like that. It's not what that was about. But it represented the battle that you have to have with yourself. Just like Jesus did, right? When he had to tell Satan to get behind him. So New Year's is coming up, right? 3/21 to April 1st. New Year's is the real New Year's. The vernal equinox. Sun returns back to center.
The sun returns, right?
Yep. You have spring, new growth, new everything.
New life.
New life. So this is really the real New Year's coming up. Keep that in mind. That's it. Hope everybody's getting their gardens together, right?
Yep. Herbs, gardens.
Medicinal.
Get them going.
That's it.
There, Mike.
Yeah. I'm here trying not to go to sleep.
Okay.
All right, we'll end it.
Yeah, no worries, man. I've certainly enjoyed sharing with y'all tonight. Some really good information. And like they said at the end, y'all, we thought we were on a sprint, and sometimes we get caught in that narrative thinking that it's a sprint, and it's really not a sprint, it's a marathon. And we have control over when that marathon is ran and when it's not. And it was a great example to have the knowledge of Jesus telling Satan to get behind him, right? Because we have dominion, and despite how it's put together in the different challenges of history, we know it to be true that man has dominion over self-governing, right? And it's our time, right? It's our time to start stepping back into that sovereign nationality, spiritual peace that we were meant to be our entire lives in. With that being said, I want to let everybody know that we love each and every one of you. Thank you for your patience with us tonight. And we shall see you tomorrow night for a live Q&A. Have a great night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Night.